while waiting on people.
Yeah.
At least I think it is.
That makes sense. Let people trickle in.
I need to get contact with the guy that was going to make our intro video too. See what's up with that.
Do you have like an idea for a little, like an intro tune, like a music tune already?
For the music? No, I don't have an idea for that. I might could just go with what we got. Oh no, look, people are already watching on Facebook. Hey, everybody that's tuning in now, we do have a couple of people that are running late due to work calls. So we will be starting a bit late, but I figured it was best for us to get started now and up and running, and we can BS and chit chat, talk about different stuff before we get into the actual episode while we're waiting on the rest of our crew to join us. So hopefully that's cool with y'all. But yeah, that's just what it is. Oh, 2 people already dropped. Ain't that funny?
It's probably Art. It's Art himself. He's like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be on there, not watching.
So
how about that El Salvador Bitcoin money?
That's on our topic list, but we can talk about it. Yeah, it's on the topic list, but we can talk about it. Wait, you said that was on the mining?
No. Well, I think they are going to work on mining, obviously, now that they're...
Okay. But you're talking about the
legal tender.
The legal tender thing, yeah.
No, that's on the list.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's on the list.
I didn't know we officially put it on there. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, the list is a lot longer than usual.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking long. So again, if you guys are just tuning in right now, we have a couple of the people that are supposed to join us running a bit late. That's why we started a little later than usual. They're both on Pacific time. And oh, great. There's Universal Discourse. Hey, Uni.
Hello.
Let me do this number. There we go.
Fresh Faces, New Ideas, and Sean Solo.
Hello.
Let's talk about it instead of talking about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Hey, maybe it's me. I can't do that yet until I'm 100% certain that my job doesn't drug test, which I am almost there. So once I'm there, I'll probably be partaking in the little bit of the sticky icky. So yeah, I might do it on stream every once in a while. We'll see. We'll see.
We're gonna flip.
I got that covered. I got it covered.
We're going to flip to the actual views.
Say what? Oh, are you talking to your audience, Fresh Faces?
Oh, so, yeah, I was, but I was telling them we were switching to so they could see the panel now because I just had it. I'm looking at me.
Cool. So let's go ahead and get with like introductions and stuff while we wait on the other people to join us. MaddyCakes is supposed to join us. She told me that she'd be about 20 minutes late. Work call. She works PST hours, so she's going to be about 20 minutes late, which means she should be here at about 7:25 or so, our time, 8:25. So yeah, Unity, what's going on? What's new with you? You got your computer situation fixed or?
No, it's just the laptop is not working now, so it's called GoFundMe. It's really getting bad. It's like,
you got a link up for that?
A link up for that?
For the GoFundMe? Or are you saying you're going to do a GoFundMe?
No, I have one. Yeah, I can try to find it and put it in there. But it's basically a critical need situation. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll look for it for you.
Okay.
I'll be here for a while, and then we're supposed to try to stream a game or get into Discord today. So.
Okay, cool.
I'll kick it off with you.
How's you're doing like some research and stuff too, right? How's that going?
Yeah, counter extremism.
Yeah.
So how is that going? Is very, very well, despite everything. Yeah, and I got contacted by, oh my gosh, the London, Ontario Police Department.
Oh, that's cool.
Because they had a recent incident, where a driver, I think it was Sunday or Monday, just drove into a Muslim family.
Oh yeah, in Canada.
So only the 9-year-old boy lived.
Damn.
Yeah. So my research focuses on those kind of incidences, like James Field in Charlottesville, the driver that killed Heather Heyer. So maybe some of this data will be useful to them. We don't know yet. We'll find out. And that's a bit like that's extremely sobering and distressing. So
Yeah.
especially with everything crapping out the way it is right now, I feel like it can't get anything done, or so. But I'm here, managed to be here.
Hold on. I gotta turn my fan.
What fell?
Say what?
Did something fall?
Oh no, I just hit my computer a little bit. Oh, there's a little bit of echo coming from you. I can hear myself now a little bit.
Probably cannot help that.
Okay.
Most likely. So it's gonna sound
No worries.
really funny. Yeah, the headset's inferior, and I have no idea what's happening with this laptop. So
Okay.
hopefully it'll straighten itself out.
Good to know. Sean, what's going on with you, man? How's the job treating you? Are you still on swings? You're muted.
Whoops.
Yeah, sorry. Still doing second and third shifts. It's getting better though. We got a new guy. I've been training him. He's pretty awesome. Younger guy. He's excited. So I'm optimistic. I did get a little raise as well.
Oh, nice. That's always nice.
Yeah, it's nice, especially after all the pandemic work and all that shit. It's totally deserved, if I must say so myself.
Nice. So, Fresh Faces, New Ideas. You're new to our little stream world. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and mute you because I can hear your fan. Actually, no, I think it's coming from Uni. Yep. So, it's fine. I can just mute and unmute you while we're talking.
I don't know. I don't think so from the laptop, so I really don't know what that is.
I can hear a slight buzz, but it could be anything.
That might be. There's a small buzz from me, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's find out. Okay, it's coming from Uni. Oh, she got disconnected.
I have no idea. I can't.
Oh, no, she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
fix it. So.
It's all good. All good. I'll just just when you're trying to talk, just make sure you unmute yourself. I'll mute you if it gets bad. That's okay.
I have to unmute. Okay, I'll mute it. Put the GoFundMe link up for you.
Yeah. So, Fresh Faces, New Ideas. How's it going? Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? How long you've been streaming? What kind of politics you have? Why you wanted to be on this show, etc. Whatever you want to share, go ahead and share it, man.
All right. Well, my name is David. I go by Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on YouTube at Fresh Faces New Ideas, and you can find me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. I did the YouTube thing for about 2-ish months or so, and then I wasn't getting the type of reach that I wanted to, so I just decided to start doing Twitch. I do generally streaming around 1 PM EST, and I cover basically whatever's in the news, or I'll talk to other people. I like to do, just debate politics. My philosophy is that too many people aren't aware of what's actually going on in the political world. They're not sure what bills are being passed. They just kind of hear whatever they hear on the news, and they're not, fully invested in understanding what's really going on. So I like to break down a lot of the bills and, the whatever's in the news and make it easy for people to understand, because I think the more educated people are, the better we're going to do. So that's pretty much what.
That's great stuff, dude. Have you checked out anything done by Brad of Turing News?
No, I don't. No. So part of the problem is I don't have like before I joined Twitch, my my reach out to people on Twitch and like the like other real content creators was kind of limited to just kind of YouTube. So I didn't have like a huge reach. So I'm still like trying to figure out like who's who and who's, you know, who I can reach out to and who to talk to and just for stuff.
Gotcha.
So who did you say that was?
Brad Wydra of Turing News. He has his own channel. He's shared his key with a bunch of other content creators so that there's more people streaming on Turing News. And he does a similar setup. So you might like his content, might want to get in touch with him.
Okay. I will take a look at that. After this, I'll probably look at that tomorrow. Because I know tomorrow I was talking to, when I was on the Super Sunday panel, I was talking to Feline Father. That was the first time I met him. And I think I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. I also do... occasionally I do basketball talk stuff. One of my fraternity brothers from college has a podcast called Productive Conversations, and I was on that last night. And then I've been doing the Center Left Radio podcast for like 3 years now. I've been co-hosting that. I usually do that on Fridays.
Cool. Where's that at?
I think it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It used to be a shoutcast. I don't know if it's still up as a shoutcast, but if you just Google Center Left Radio,
Center Left Radio. I'll get this link from Spotify so we can drop it for our audience so they can check out your content a little bit more in depth. As people may be aware that have tuned in our streams, Universal Discourse did suffer a hack-induced system failure, which is why she's on her laptop right now. So if you want to help her out, getting her stuff back up and going, go ahead and if you have the money, if you're able to, go ahead and donate some money to her GoFundMe so that she can get her system back up and running. It would very much help her out, and it would help us out because we love her and we want her to continue doing all the great content that she does. So that's why we're dropping it. And there you go. So it's dropped in all the chats. So hopefully people will do it, and we'll put it in our community as well, Uni, when we're done with the show tonight. Oh, I can't unmute. There he goes. Must have clicked it twice.
Hey, it's bad. It's super bad. So help. I'm not gonna lie.
Brad, I see that you're talking about some of the technical issues we're having tonight. So Fresh Faces New Ideas is also on a laptop, and that might be why there's audio sync issues. It is what it is. So I think we'll go ahead and get started with the news. I'll go ahead and break in with like the little introductions things and everything like that so that we have a clean break for me to upload the content to our podcast streaming service. And then we'll get started. Sean, are you ready to talk about the Bitcoin stuff?
Let's go for it.
We'll do that first. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another exciting episode of the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. I'm your host and moderator, Cypher. If this is your first time joining the Roundup, we do this weekly Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Generally speaking, this is our little break in the week in order to inform our audience and have a little bit of fun talking about the news with a kind of analysis only the crowd provides. Tonight, I am joined by Universal Discourse, Sean Solo.
Hello.
Fresh Faces New Ideas.
Hello.
And MaddyCakes should be joining us shortly. She is on a work call right now, so she should be joining us. And I believe that's the only people that are joining us tonight due to work engagements. Tonight, we're going to talk about a whole host of different things. Some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, we're going to talk about some Bitcoin news. We're going to talk about COVID news. We're going to talk about Trump news. We're going to talk about G7 news and a lot more. So let's go ahead and get started. Sean, so I know that you are a big tech bro dude when it comes to crypto. You've been on that stuff since before I got interested in it, been evangelist for it a little bit, not necessarily as a currency, but, you know, kind of like fun little things in the future of maybe internet or what have you. So why don't you go ahead and try to fill in our audience here that's joined us tonight about what is happening in some Bitcoin news, some interesting news coming out of El Salvador.
So to keep it short, basically the El Salvadorian prime minister, it's president over there. I can't even pronounce his name, Nayib Bukele, I think that's it. But he has been an advocate for Bitcoin for quite some time. He's been pushing it. And yesterday, the Salvadorian Congress passed it 62 out of 84 votes. Essentially, the law is just makes Bitcoin legal tender. So they can use it to pay debts, they can use it to pay taxes. I suppose stores and various other services have to accept it now if people want to use it. So in short, that's it. It's now legal tender in El Salvador. They're the first country to do so.
So go ahead.
One other thing I just wanted to add on that, there's new news today. The IMF sees legal economic issues with the El Salvador Bitcoin move. So the IMF is already like, hey, whoa, hold on, we don't like this.
Did you happen to read any further into the IMF thing? Because that's interesting to me. I don't know why they would do that.
It says they have a number of economic and legal concerns regarding the move to make it a parallel legal tender. It raises a number of macroeconomic, financial, and legal issues that require very careful analysis, says Jerry Rice, the IMF spokesperson. So they didn't really give a lot of details there. They just said they have various concerns regarding it.
That's interesting. I wonder if that might be because they have IMF loans and they would have to convert the Bitcoin to a accepted currency to then pay off the loans. And that might end up causing issues, or maybe they're just worried in general that it might cause instability within the El Salvadorian economy. So I could go either way with that one. Let's see. Universal Discourse or Fresh Faces, what is either of yours take on this whole change with Bitcoin in El Salvador?
I'm not like a huge guy on Bitcoin. I haven't like really followed it, but I think it's I don't think it's like the best idea because it seems like very volatile, right? Like it. Mm-hmm. So is it all crypto? So it's specifically targeted to just Bitcoin. It's not like these other other weird coins like the Dogecoin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But this particular bill, it's Bitcoin specific.
Okay. So I imagine that one's the most stable, right? Or as stable as these currencies can be.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I would just worry about like the stability of tying a currency to something that's so volatile.
So they're not tying the currency to it. What they're doing is they're accepting it. They're making it have to be accepted as legal tender, which means that if a person wants to pay taxes in it, or if they want to do a store transaction, a store can't say, no, we don't take that. They have to take it as if it was whatever currency is in
then
El Salvador.
Everyone has to be able to convert Bitcoin into whatever other money they're doing.
No, it's not a conversion thing. It's saying, I have this much Bitcoin. I don't have this much El Salvadorian dollar. You have to take my Bitcoin for this transaction. And then if people then they would have to go and convert it to whatever. But given, it's where it's at, it could be going in different ways.
It kind of makes me think of those people that go to pay their government fees, like a traffic ticket or something, with a bunch of pennies and nickels. They have they have to accept that. If you at this point, if you in El Salvador take your Bitcoin to a store and they say nope, not going to take that, that's illegal. And I also want to clear up, a lot of people read that news and they assume, a lot of people assume that Bitcoin is now their main currency and they've done away with the other one. Mm-hmm. No, it's both now. They can do either or. So they haven't gotten rid of their regular currency.
Right.
So what's like the benefit to doing this? Does it like give people more? Because from reading the article, it looked like it was partly due because they seem to lack banks.
Bitcoin, that is a big pushing point for Bitcoin and other crypto in general, is in areas where they have so many unbanked people, as they call it. If you are at least able to get a small internet connection, even as slow as dial-up, you can enable banking with these cryptocurrency apps.
Yeah, and the way the Bitcoin ledger works in general, it's basically a bank. You can transact. It's a bank without the traditional banking services like loans and things like that. There's other things that you can do for that, but yeah. MaddyCakes just joined us. How you doing, MaddyCakes? So glad that you could join us today. We were just talking a little bit about the Bitcoin news that we shared with you earlier. But before we get into all that stuff, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? I'm sure they're dying to know more about you.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm MaddyCakes. I am a Twitch streamer who talks a lot about politics, economics, things that you see often in the news in my professional life, and why I was unfortunately late this afternoon, afternoon here in California. I am a creative director for a small agency that works primarily with progressive organizations and campaigns. So when you work in the agency world, you are at the behest of your clients. So I was on a client call, but yeah, I do a lot of political organizing and activism. And only recently, this past year, I decided to translate that over to the streaming world in hopes that I could help people get more civically engaged and aware of, how to get involved with politics. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be really fun.
Well, MaddyCakes, we are very glad you were able to join us this week. For what it's worth, from my end, I love your content. You're very feisty. I like how you don't take shit from nobody. So that's the best thing. You are a huge advocate for your position. So I really appreciate that. Ever since I saw you on one of the first things, I don't remember which panel it was, I was like, I got to get her on my show. So
yeah, no, I know, especially for women on Twitch. I think we're sort of socialized to be accommodating and make sure, not to offend. And so I kind of decided, because it's not in my natural, I'm not naturally inclined to be confrontational, but when you're being talked over in a debate and you have a point to make, it's like, hey, you could have plenty of time to like call my position dumb and stupid and whatever, but you're going to let me finish making the point before you do that. And if you make a bad point, I'm not going to not laugh about it. So 100%. Yeah.
Keep it 100. Keep doing what you're doing. Love it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Universal Discourse, you unmuted your mic a little bit ago. You were going to say something. I assume you were going to say something about this whole Bitcoin thing. So I'd like to get your opinion on it.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can? Really? Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Fuck those headphones. Oh my god. Oh, it hurts. So Bitcoin went up 6%.
It's overpowering just a little bit, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's better more than less. I don't know how to make it less.
It's okay. Just keep doing what you're doing.
I'll try to fix it. Speakers. Is that good?
I got it. Go for it.
All right, you're gonna have to handle it from there.
I got it.
So Bitcoin jumped 6% since El Salvador made it legal. El Salvador is incredibly distressed country. And, if it found a way from its fourth world conditions to play on the global market, and it's made this massive increase, $37,000 worth or whatever, then, wow. They did it. And so I'm not surprised the IMF is like, oh, no, not you people. So, because, El Salvador had its sort of junta problems. And I just wonder politically what's going on behind it. And will the IMF actually get out of their way and go ahead and let them, do what they're doing? It's very typical. Third and fourth world countries aren't supposed to actually succeed at anything. So I kind of wish them more power, like yay, go, but I'm not sure who's in power and what their agenda is. So, but God, El Salvador of all places. I don't know if you've ever been there or dealt with their government or whatever. They're like this big. Itty bitty. So I think it's kind of, why am I not surprised? But I kind of fear for repercussions against them because the global community does not receive them well anyway. And what are they going to do to the poor little tiny country just because it became a Zoomer out of thin air? Can't worry about them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point on that regard. MaddyCakes, what is your opinion on this whole situation here with the El Salvadorian government dictating that you need to take this as legal tender?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I briefly was in El Salvador just on a crossover. So I've been to their airport, which is really lovely, just by chance. But I think, I don't know, so my background is in economics, my academic background, and I'm already a bit inherently weary of Bitcoin as a means of like using it to exchange for goods and services. And I think a lot of it, when I think about people making investments in Bitcoin, it worries me that the value of that currency it's just so incredibly volatile, and that volatility isn't necessarily grounded in like the material conditions or reality. It's all on like demand. So I don't know, like I know that I live in the Bay Area. So for a lot of people, like Bitcoin and the whole idea of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is, people are on the bandwagon, you know, they're professing this as being like the future and the way that business will be conducted. So I'm not like, I think maybe it's a good thing. However, I think just the lack of transparency in Bitcoin, the risk of fraud, and having nothing like a central bank to ensure your investments, that worries me. So while, you know, maybe like just on the surface, I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's providing people with a different way to pay for goods and services. And, you know, especially in a country like El Salvador, that's like a developing country, potentially this could provide business opportunities and opportunities for economic growth. But at the same time, that's like, I'm still so weary of any sort of cryptocurrency as a means like to conduct commerce, because again, like I just think there's such a high risk of manipulation, of like losing all of your investments due to things completely out of your control. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little torn on it.
No,
how much?
Go ahead.
You know, how risky is it for them when they have nothing to lose? You know,
I don't know if that's like a good like counter where it's like, well, your life's already terrible, so like why not? It's like, I don't know. It's because I agree. Listen, my thesis that I wrote was on macroeconomics in developing countries in Latin America and South America. So like this is something I'm really interested in, and I want to advocate for these countries to be able to build out their economy and empower their local residents and citizens to take control of their own economic future. But
it's a big risk.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when it's a country in Latin America that has been taken advantage of by so many Western countries historically, with essentially imperialism, colonialism. I worry that something that's already this carries such inherent risk, like cryptocurrency. I worry that it is just providing another avenue for them to be taken advantage of by people just looking to extract wealth and resources based off their labor. But I mean, I really hope I'm proven wrong in that, because I would love to see them thrive, but it's a real concern.
Yeah, El Salvador was a proving ground, and they were just war torn, and oh my God! So I think they're throwing a Hail Mary, okay? Because I think they have nothing left to. That's it. There's
Well, and what makes it all the more tragic is that, especially in that region, El Salvador, Guatemala, these are such resource rich countries, right? Like they have the potential to be with all the wealth that could be generated from just their natural resources alone, and done so in a way that's sustainable. There's so much potential there, but this is the lasting legacy of Western imperialism, is that's why those countries are so weary of foreign investment, because historically what foreign investment means is we're going to invest, and then all the wealth generated by your resources, we're just going to extract and export back out, to our wherever the financing came from. So everybody,
having their own economy is going to curtail migration out. Would it stop waves of immigration?
Yeah, I mean that's the long-term goal, I would think, is that when you make a country more, you add to like their prosperity and improve their standard of living, that means that fewer people are going to want to leave and flee. Like you're building sort of this long-term stability that will improve what now we see, where it's just a lot of people from those countries coming to our border because, I mean, you look at what life is like back in their home country. It's often, dangerous. It's a life or death decision for them. And like the United States has a lot to do with why that is.
Right. And Kamala Harris just recently told Guatemala to come here. And I wondered if El Salvador went, you know what? Hail Mary, here we go. Wham! Bitcoin. Let's just try this.
Very possible.
Yeah, and I'm rooting for Kamala. I'm like, I like want you to succeed, but then you do that, and it's like, oh, God damn it.
She did it because to stop, for their security. I mean, I get it, but I wonder if the U.S., I don't know, there's so much non-transparency going on, and nothing happens as a singularity.
For sure.
I mean, also the way she approached
before we get into before we get into this topic, we're going to get into this topic a little bit later. I just want to wrap up the little segment that we're doing right now on Bitcoin, and then we can transition to this. So the one thing that I wanted to mention about this situation is that it is interesting to me personally about this, because what they could do is potentially turn around, wait for the coin to go up in value. So it's going to go up in value. It's going to go up and down, but the swings are wide, right? So they can wait for it to go up to another 50, 60K a coin. If they're sitting on like, I don't know, 100 of these things, they turn around, sell it, and then use that money that they sold to pay off debt. And so if they're paying off debt in the profits that they're getting from Bitcoin, that might actually help stabilize their country a bit more. So maybe that is why they're doing it. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on ahead. Maybe the guy just really loves Bitcoin, but we can't ignore that.
And I agree. I like
it's 37,000 now.
I do like that method of paying off debt better than like when you go to someone like the IMF or World Bank, where you don't just take out a loan. It comes with so many strings attached. Yeah. And I know historically those loans have essentially been used as a way to, again, allow for foreign interests to have like a vested control of that country's economic dealings, and it basically gives like the United States in particular more power and control over the decisions that are made, because 100%. They can do it in the name of paying that back. So I agree. Like if this helps to remove someone like the World Bank's control over how they pay back their debt, then yes, it's absolutely a positive thing. Right. And I hope that's how it manifests.
I agree. Yeah, the U.S. is like, or the World Bank is like a really evil hard money lender.
Economic hitman.
I've read that book. Yep.
Does anybody want to add a little bit more to this topic before we move on to Kamala Harris and immigration snafus? All right.
What a perfect segue. Huh.
Yeah, exactly. So Fresh Faces, New Ideas. I did cut you off so that I could just tie a little bow on that topic. What were you going to say about the Kamala Harris and immigration situation that's going on?
I mean, a lot of with especially her saying, don't come. It's about messaging. They're trying to placate the right wing to say to people, look, we're telling them not to come. You can't call us open borders. They're going to call them open borders anyway. I think it was today or yesterday, Laura Boebert went down to the border with a cutout of Kamala Harris, and they've been using that as a talking point for the past 3 months, however long she's been in charge of doing the border. So it's the wrong message, because it doesn't really qualify with what our laws are, and it's not going to placate them, because they're going to use the same talking points regardless of what happens.
Okay, that's fair. To the talking point thing, from my perspective, I don't think it's really about Republicans necessarily. I think it's more about the, 300,000 or so people in Midwest and swing states. So Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, these states that are like not near the border whatsoever, however, have really strong feelings about the border, even liberals.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Right? So we have these swing voters, and there's truly swing voters. These are people that voted, and I've been making these arguments online pretty much last 2 days that either voted Obama and then Trump, or voted McCain, Obama, Trump, Biden, and they're just going over the entire thing. And 50,000 votes went a different way in these states, Georgia included. We'd have been looking at another President Trump because of the Electoral College. So I'm not sure it's necessarily about the Republicans themselves, but about what people online have been deeming the white moderate, the people that are very a little bit about this. MaddyCakes, you're making all the faces. What's your thoughts?
I can't help it. I'm a cartoon character, so I don't have a poker face. Anyone who watches me knows that. But yeah, I mean, this drives me crazy about as a strategy for the Democratic Party, specifically because I think it comes from a time period in the 90s where we were sort of dealing with post-Reaganism, where Reagan was this immensely popular conservative. And so the Democrats, in order to kind of gain people back, took on this position of Republican light, which is what gave us Bill Clinton, which was why he was had this legacy of being hard on crime and all these other things. The problem is that the political climate's changed significantly since then, but we still seem to be doing those same damn strategies, chasing the mythical, undecided, nonpartisan voter in the Midwest. And listen, my fiance is from the Midwest. I've spent a lot of time there. I have family there. And the way that it's done, I think, is just so transparent. And it's clobbing people over the head with look, we like what you like. It's just if you just make people's lives better, materially better, and pass policies that are popular, that is going to do so much more to gain support in these must-win areas than it will by just doing these sort of wink and a nod press things that just and then that also anger your dedicated base of people that you do not want to anger, that you want to make sure that they stay engaged and dedicated. We should be going for people that feel disenfranchised. But that's my own hang up, and being a political strategist now, this is just something that we debate constantly, and it drives me crazy.
So you're saying they should do their job and actually represent their constituents, in other words.
Listen, call me crazy, but that sounds.
Isn't the other they have the right diagnosis for the thing. If you make these countries better, the flow will stem. The flow of people will stem. But the problem is that people who understand that that's the issue also understand this is not going to be fixed in a month, in a year type of thing. So even doing that and instead of explaining to them, hey, look, there's not a better, the solutions that we're being yelled at to do are going to not accommodate the actual issue. We have to, I understand everyone's about instant gratification, but we have to it's all messaging. God. It's, we gotta, look, not everything, we're not going to be able to fix this immediately. Slamming a border wall down is not going to solve the problem. Executing these people or whatever, or turning them away is basically a death sentence anyway.
Right. It's
not going to solve the problem. The answer is going to take a little bit longer, but the outcome for it in the end is better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just wanted to make the point that, what Maddie was saying earlier, got pitchforks to the left, tiki torches to the right. I'm going to get screwed 5 ways to Sunday anyways. So may as well do what you want and what you actually care for than what trying to pander. Universal discourse. This is near and dear to your heart. I know that much. What is your take on this whole snafu? What's your thoughts?
Snafu.
Snafu.
Because they just came here from the wall. All right. So they had to stop, and a lot of indigenous people were involved in examining the environmental damage that building that thing has caused. So they're asking to halt anything until they can look at because there's been extensive damage as a result. So the people that live there on the border are going, well, hold on, don't do a thing. Don't do anything about this, immigration, walls, whatever, until we can assess the damage and then see if we can restore it. So there's a sort of a monkey wrench being thrown into all of this kind of thing. So I think Harris, her take was probably, with that in mind, that everything is stopped in terms of the wall and immigration things. So I don't know. That's probably a good thing, So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I just know that Biden is very strategic, and I think everything he's done is trying to navigate around the resistant sort of GOP. That he figured that out when he was VP. So you're just going to see a lot of weird moves and kind of hidden cards. I think that's what the whole thing is going to become. But I mean, that they stopped it is, to me, thank God. It's like that, the Keystone pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Stop them both. And I'm like, I don't care. They're both dead. Good. I really care. It's not safe anyway. Okay, let's clean it up and then figure out what we're going to do.
For true.
Of course, yeah, very immigration policy. I mean, I was just contacted. There's a school in Kilgore, Texas. Desperate, and they're like, oh, you can teach ESL. Yeah, they have 5,000 students that have come into the community that were immigrant students. I'm like, well, I want to know one thing is how many people came over in the last 4 years and what happened to them? I have a lot of questions. So I've been in contact with some people who are working with the borders, fronteras. And I'm going to be getting some more insights and data directly from that area, from them. If my computer stays working for the next week, and maybe next week I'll have you some really good data, some actual facts. I hope. I'm going to try.
Look forward to it, Uni. We do have a comment that I think is pertinent to everything that we're talking about here from Brad G. Walk over at Twitch, saying basically the cons are calling her hypocrite and look, she hates them too type of rhetoric. The rookie mistake part that he's making in his previous comment. I think she could have worded it better. She was too straightforward. And to that point, this is an argument that's been made by every Democratic president in the last 20 years. So we had Clinton make the argument. We had Clinton, Hillary make the argument while she was Secretary of State, and we had Obama make the argument, and now we're having Biden administration making the argument. So we've had the last three Democratic presidents make the argument, but like, hey, making this trip is dangerous, and not all of you are going to get in because reasons. So just don't do it.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's always
they say she shouldn't even have gone. That's okay. Come on.
Well, that's the thing. Like
they're always. She said.
They're always.
Yeah.
No, but I thought Fresh Faces brought up a good point before, where it's like they're always going to call that. They're always going to say that stuff. So like this this bullshit posturing just doesn't work, because no matter what, it's like that's what the same thing when they call like different policies socialist, and they're like, oh, but we got to make sure that they nothing could be misconstrued as that, and it's like they're going to call it that anyway. So how about just do the right thing? That's going to actually make a difference. And who gives a shit? Like, because they're gonna say that anyway.
Yeah, and they don't know the terms that they're using.
Like chickens, running around. Like backbiting actually involves you in politics.
Faces, you've been trying. No, it's good. It's good. I love the energy. This energy is very good. But Faces has been trying to break down.
He's at the table, gentlemen. Memories exist for a reason. They lactate. Things happen. Moons synchronize. The universe sings. Things happen. I have to leave. So, MaddyCakes, I know, is a lot nicer than me. So you're going to enjoy this. But
well, the night is young. We'll see.
I'll come around and I'm also a Twitch streamer, so I'll come around and check you out. All right.
Everybody, be sure to follow Universal Discourse. It is always a pleasure to have her on. So go ahead, follow. Like, subscribe, donate money if you have it. Please, please, please. We want her back in tip-top shape as quickly as possible. So
share the link and vouch. Yes, share the link and vouch for me. The situation got real critical real fast because reasons. Help. All right, but anyway, and I hope to be back next week.
It was so nice meeting you.
Yeah, well, for a moment, we'll talk if you'd like sometime. Get a hold of me, please.
I would love that.
And I love Cypher, and I don't know you guys, but I'm looking forward because the cat ears are, I'm vibing with the cat ears. That's okay.
We'll have to talk more.
Y'all have a great,
thank you.
Great show. I know it's going to be wonderful. Okay, bye.
Good luck on your show. Bye.
Thank you.
Fresh Faces, you were trying to break in with a point there when the energy was hot. So what is it, buddy? Come on, let's do it.
Well, so it's twofold. To like what Maddie was saying about them always complaining about things. The problem is they're really good at messaging. And irregardless of whether their messaging actually makes sense, because if you're constantly online person, like I imagine most of us are, you've seen like the GOP Twitter is basically stuck on auto repeat to saying, oh, today would be a good day for Kamala Harris to go to the border, or they'll say everything Joe Biden is doing is causing inflation, or they're the border crisis. The problem is there needs to be a more consistent messaging on our side saying, look, this is an actual solution that will stop the problem. And when you worry about things like socialism, the loudest voices on the right who are arguing about socialism don't know what they're talking about. Marjorie Taylor Greene literally just compared the Blackstone buying up all the housing to socialism. She doesn't understand what the terms.
So did JD Vance. Yeah, it's like, oh God, so stupid. Yeah.
So it's like you have to understand that just because they're loud, they're always going to have their subsection of people. But more people understand the things that if you explain them correctly, that you have the advantage because you're right. So you do the policies, you ignore what they say, because when it comes down to it, if you pass these things anyway, and they realize they're good, like the healthcare, the American Rescue Plan, there's a dozen Republicans who are taking advantage of it. They're saying, "Oh, look what I got you," even though I actually didn't get it. So don't worry about their messaging. Figure out what you're going to say. Pass the bills that people want, because you generally we seem to have the right bills as of right now, and then the voters will figure it out. If they end up with more money, they'll know. And if they see that one side is constantly complaining about critical race theory and whatever they're complaining about this week, and they're not actually focusing on the things that you're getting done, that's what it is.
No, I think that's 100% true. We actually had the Steele come in with a comment that gives credence to that. The left can mean but cannot message. So I think there's some truth to that. Although the right wing might not necessarily agree with the mean part, but I definitely agree with the latter for that. I have.
Yeah, but have you seen the right's memes though? Like,
oh yeah, they're terrible. I mean, it's just bigotry wrapped up in bigotry wrapped in bigotry. So and then of course I'm a manly man. Shut up, soul boy. Like whatever.
Oh my God, I know the toxic masculinity that is just like emanating from those poor men and women, because it's all like internalized too.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. It's just like, guys, I don't know. This is why like weed should be legal. Because if you just could like chill with the joint and like not deal with whatever that is, like maybe you'd realize like, oh, I don't have to dominate everything. I don't have to be the alpha because like no one cares. Just like be nice.
The beer induces rage, the weed induces vibes. Remember that, people.
Hell yeah.
But we had a little thing going on in our community. So MaddyCakes, I don't know if you're aware, but we come from Facebook actually, which is different for Twitch. But we've been doing this for God, I don't know, 10 years now at this point. Like some of us have. Yeah, it's been a doozy. But yeah, I know I don't look it, but I'm actually 35. So just some.
I'm 33, so I get it. There you go.
So yep. But yeah, we had a wave of MAGA hats come in and say post physique. So that was very interesting. So boy, post physique. I'm not going to take you seriously if I can beat you up. It's literally fight me, bro. But just with a new thing, right? Sean, you've been a little bit quiet about this topic. I know that. So you're in Georgia. You know what right wingers are saying, I'm sure. What's your thoughts about this whole kind of like immigration thing coming from Kamala Harris? Is this a thing that she should have not done, in your opinion? How do you think it might play in a state like yours? And you're muted.
I think it's a good message, but I think, of course, the people that should mostly be receiving that message just aren't going to receive it that way because they don't want to. I mean, it's good because they don't want immigrants coming here, so that's good on their end, but they're not going to see it that way.
No, we're still open borders, right?
Right, and I hate that. I just saw someone say that yesterday, like, "Oh, they have open borders in their policy," and I'm like, "No, no one did that. No one ever did."
I was arguing with somebody about that like 2 days ago. I don't know why, but like I don't have a huge audience, but it's like all right wingers, and the things that I hear from them is like
it's
like
it's all make believe. It's like they came from
Maybe
some.
it is the hat.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, the hat tunes them into some other dimensional
That's what
fucking reality.
I mean, they listen to me.
Whereas
for like
the cat ears, it's like it keeps them away. You know, they see it and they're like, "Oh no."
They're like, "Oh no, no woo woo might make pee pee go." Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
We got jokes, everybody. Jealous of Zypher's beard and hair. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do have a pretty well kept beard. Like
North Countryman. Oh, I love North. He's a regular in my chat. He's super smart. He has saved me on a lot of panels because he'll like send me actual like academic articles, and I'm just like making me look good, man.
Well, North, since Maddie's vouching for it, you're more than welcome to join us on this when we have another one. In fact, we're down a person, so if you want to get on right now, you can just hit me up in Discord, and I'll get you a link. I think we're friends on Discord, so you should be able to find me. But yeah, I think we've. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump back to the Kamala view thing.
Yeah.
I think people that aren't so much into politics, that especially aren't into the whole MAGA land thing, they're just regular sensible voters that catch the news here and there.
For sure.
If they see that, there's a good number of people that are going to like that message, and they're gonna be like, okay, I like that. It's sensible. That works for me. So there are people that are going to think that. You're just not going to see a lot of that online. For sure.
The people, I think there was a study done, but this number might not be right about the number of people that do it. But so I'm not going to say a number. I'm just going to say the gist of it. So basically, you have both extremes, both people on the extremes, both sides on the extremes, taking up the most space on inline debates. And the run-of-the-mill average voter is just drowned out because they're not participating in this. They're talking about cat memes and like YD18 from freaking TikTok and everything like that, right? So they're not focused in on this politics. And when I was this just happened like right before we went live. I was on somebody's page and was debating about immigration, and they're like 38% of Democrats support like a more open border position, not an open border position, but a more like just humane refugee and asylum seeking and everything immigration system. And I'm like, all right, but 38% of self-identified Democrats is less than 20% of the electorate, because only about 25% of people self-identify as Democrat. So now voting patterns, you can extrapolate voting patterns. You got about right now, essentially a 50-50 split. But if you're talking about just self-identified Democrats, you're not talking about hardly anybody. Like 38% is nothing. 38% of 25% is very low. So just another thing to put out there. Does anybody else on the panel want to add a final point in this before we wrap this topic up and move on to the next one? I'll take that as oh, go ahead.
It's just
sorry.
Like there's no like just trying to appease their arguments is not like the answer, because they're going to be disingenuous about it anyway. But I mean, how many Joe Biden's had at least I think 2 speeches where he said don't come here, and they'll still call him Joe Biden's open border policy. And then if you ask the people who mimic that, like what exactly did he do? They don't know. So it's the changes aren't substantial. Like there are things that they screwed up with, like being prepared for how many people were coming, but the overall changes are not like dramatic. So like when you see people, I think it was like Ted Cruz who was arguing, oh, she said it's actually because of COVID and a hurricane, but really we know it's because they opened the border. It's like, no.
Right here, buddy.
It's cutting through all the noise, and that's like reaching. That's what I'm trying to do, is like cut through the noise and like reach the people who don't know stuff and be like, all right, well, here's what's actually going on.
Yeah, true. So I think we've talked about this topic pretty extensively. Hope that we've informed our audience and anybody that might watch later on this or listen to it on the podcast. Speaking of which, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that like button for the algorithms. It really does help us out. Follow everybody on this panel. It helps everybody out. Let's do it. But with that said, I think we can go on to another topic. And this one is a huge topic going on right now because there's just been some developments on this front. Joe Manchin has gotten the Republicans, and Republicans have agreed to a $1 trillion deal. So this goes hand in hand.
It is a trillion? It is a trillion because I saw it was
$1 trillion.
I saw it was 587 billion.
That's the House. Like the House problem solvers. Like
no, I thought it was with the Senate one was 587 billion.
Senators reach agreement for $1 trillion infrastructure package as it happened. Reporting from The Guardian. I will drop the link in the chat because
this developed right after we started the podcast.
Yep. Oh, okay. It happened right after we started.
Watching, like CNN like right before, and they were talking about this other one.
That didn't go everywhere. Let me do that.
Breaking news.
Breaking news here. You heard it here first, folks, or potentially anyways, at least with the analysis part. So, hey, look at us beating the big boys. So with that said, this kind of goes hand in hand with the whole Joe Manchin not wanting to get rid of the filibuster, because every time he makes a little deal like this, that it's just one more thing of like bipartisanship is actually possible, people. We don't need to change the rules of the system because people like me get shit done. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the infrastructure bill. Is it good? What does it mean? And then we'll talk about, after talking about infrastructure, we'll talk about the filibuster and Joe Manchin and what his deal is. All right, everybody can go. So who wants to go first?
I mean, I can rail about the filibuster for freaking ever. So because I actually did, because I realized that not a lot of people knew the history of the filibuster and like where it actually came from. Mm-hmm. So I actually a few months ago did a full like deep dive on my stream. I put together like a damn PowerPoint presentation about the history of the filibuster and how the fact that it was created by accident, and the founding fathers fully intended on having a simple majority be all that's needed to pass legislation. They articulate that explicitly in the Federalist Papers. This is something that Alexander Hamilton wrote about, and Madison. And so the filibuster was created as an accident due to a rule change in the first decade of the 1800s, where they repealed they got rid of what's called the last question rule. What they did essentially is they just didn't bake in. It allowed you to extend debate, but they didn't bake in a mechanism that would force that bill to go to a vote. So thus the filibuster became a thing. So this whole notion that it's grounded in encouraging bipartisanship and that it was created in order to foster debate and collaboration is, quite frankly, is just a blatant lie. So that oversight had existed for years, and a decade, and it wasn't really used ever. It was only exploited really during the civil rights movement, during the civil rights era, in order to, that was the famous Strom Thurmond speak for, however long to block the Civil Rights Act, which then eventually went and passed. So that's why it makes it all the more ridiculous that so many, I say so many, that two Democratic senators are staking their reputations on protecting this obscure loophole that was created by accident, that the founding fathers actually warned about, that if we required anything more than a simple majority, what that would allow, what that would manifest as, it would allow a small minority to essentially hold progress hostage and prevent otherwise popular legislation from going forward, which stands in stark contrast to what the will of the American people is, which is why we voted for these representatives, right? So that we could pass this legislation. I think I didn't see the news that they came to a deal, so that's really exciting. But I'm worried because the biggest thing standing in the way of the Democrats retaining control in 2022 is voting rights. And if we don't end up passing protections for voting rights, I mean, the pretty much, and the GOP, maybe to our benefit, have been extremely transparent about what their strategy is, and their strategy has been voter suppression. So, I'm stoked about the infrastructure bill. I think it's good that I loved that Biden just cut off talks. I think after maybe the debacle with the ACA, he grew wise to when the GOP is just drawing out talks when they have no interest in voting for the legislation anyway. So it's like, why would we negotiate and make concessions for people that aren't going to support it in the first place? Right. I think it's a good thing that he sort of played hardball there. And I don't know, I'm optimistic that maybe because there's some sort of bipartisan support, it'll pass. But like you said, that also gives Manchin this very lovely open for being able to say, see, we did it here, so we should be able to do it on other things. But I also suspect maybe McConnell knew that like that would be how he views it. So now this gives him a chance to just like play hardball with HR 1, which I think is a far more important piece of legislation.
I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Fresh Faces. I'll get in.
I mean, look, I rail against the filibuster like literally all the time. Like almost every other day, I'm talking about the filibuster and just how Joe Manchin's just objectively wrong on almost everything he says about it. But like that, I'm sure we'll get to that later. But for the infrastructure bill, I guess it really depends on what's in it, because Joe Manchin, when we started these negotiations, said he wanted a $4 trillion bill. Like those were his words. Mm-hmm. That would have been like the middle between the AOC called for 10 trillion. Joe Biden said we'll do like 2.7, and Joe Manchin was like we'll do 4. And if he's settling for 1, it depends. Honestly, it depends, because even the 2.7 wasn't big enough to handle the problems. And I wish they had done better messaging on this, because the messaging on it was so easy during the negotiations. It was literally, Republicans say they want to do X, Y, and Z, yet even their offers are garbage in that. Because if like the smart thing, even if you wanted to like steelman their argument, you could have said, okay, well, they could take out all the Green New Deal stuff that they don't like, mm-hmm. and they could put all that money into the infrastructure that they say they want, but they don't even want to do that. And then when it comes to paying for it, we want to tax the wealthy and they want to tax you. I mean, that is like the easiest slam dunk in history. And the fact that, like, even the base bringing it up to 28% that he started with, and then he cut it down to we're going to raise the floor to 15, is a totally different topic. But like,
right,
we can't make more of this until we know what he actually like what's actually in this. That's sure. What it comes down to. But a trillion is, I mean. If the acceptable, the whatever they said to Manchin is whatever we can pass bipartisanly, we can do, but you have to back us for when we push the rest through reconciliation. If we put the rest through reconciliation, then it's fine.
So to that, I think this is important for everybody to know. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of this from the Hill. So a bipartisan group of 10 senators Thursday afternoon announced an agreement on a compromise framework to invest $1.2 trillion in infrastructure over the next 8 years. Sources familiar with the deal said it would provide $974 billion over 5 years. They also said that the framework is focused on core physical infrastructure and would not increase taxes, though it included an option to index the gas tax to inflation. Further, it would provide $579 billion in new funding over what would otherwise be spent without any new additional legislation. Our group, comprised of 10 senators, 5 from each party, has worked in good faith and reached a bipartisan agreement on a realistic compromise framework to modernize our nation's infrastructure and energy technologies, members of the bipartisan group said in a joint statement. This investment would be fully paid for and not include tax increases, they said. The statement was issued by Rob Portman, Republican from Ohio, Kirsten Sinema from Democrat from Arizona. The leaders of the both group also included Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, Jean Shanahan, Democrat from New Hampshire, Susan Collins, Republican from Maine, Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, John Tester, Democrat from Montana, Mitt Romney, Republican from Utah, and Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia. So yeah, that's the long story short of the bill. This is actually 1.2 trillion, even though the headline stated that it is in fact 1. So this just goes to show you heard it here, folks. First, I'm the first one that said they should take a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill if they could get at least 10 Senate Republicans to vote for it, 20 House members. We got 5. I'll split the difference with you and say we win, because this is way more than Republicans initially said that they would do, which was about $500 billion or so, and it is closer to the $2.2 trillion that Biden initially said that he would do. One other important thing to note about this is that this does not include the modernizing the chip manufacturing in the United States, which also passed. That is another $250 billion investment that was initially a comprehensive. This was in the infrastructure bill that has since passed overwhelmingly support, 68 senators, only 38. The one single nay vote was Bernie Sanders from the Democratic coalition. The rest of them were Republicans. And so that actually brings up the infrastructure spending to $1.52 trillion. So there you go, people. I actually think this is a great bill. This is a great framework. Hopefully it's not passed yet. So hopefully this is where it's maintained. Go no lower, everybody. Just keep this push. Keep this 1.2, and we'll see good things come of it.
Yeah,
go for it.
Sorry, I wanted to go over the tech and manufacturing bill part that they passed.
So that's a separate. So everybody, that's a separate bill, but it was originally included in the modernizing of the infrastructure bill that was taken out because of the chip shortages. So they felt more pressing to pass. So there you go.
Yeah. It's definitely probably the most important and my most exciting part to me. It's one of the largest industrial bills the U.S. has ever passed. First of all, but the details basically, just going to summarize it. It's $52 billion going to the domestic semiconductor manufacturing, which right now the U.S. is less than 5% of all semiconductor manufacturing. So that's awesome. We need that. It's giving $81 billion to the National Science Foundation from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2026. So that's awesome. We're getting lots of science studies going on there. $17 billion for the Department of Energy over that same time period for research and development of energy-related supply chains in key technology areas. So basically, they're going to ramp up solar and other similar technologies there. And finally, for some reason, this is in the bill. This is weird for me, but this was a very key point of the bill. It bars U.S. diplomats from attending the 2020 Beijing Winter Olympics. So this bill is kind of aimed at China.
Wait,
so they just lumped that in there. It bars all U.S. diplomats from attending the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics.
That's
interesting.
So weird.
That is one of the key points of this bill.
Well, that's probably why Bernie voted against it.
No, Bernie voted against it.
Well, you know, he has
subsidies, but. Yeah,
he wants to. He's like, like you're gonna stop me from going to see hockey and ice dancing. Like, you can try.
Yeah, they just threw that in there. I don't know.
Oh,
that's fascinating.
We just got another follow, so I gotta shout out these two follows that we got. So we got a follow from just now. Thank you, New Socialist Era, for the follow. And earlier we got a Fat Boy Tro follow. So greatly appreciate the follows, everybody. Every time you give us a follow, it gives us a little bit of dopamine hit and keeps us going for this thing. So keep it up, guys. We appreciate it. As far as the whole Beijing thing is concerned, this is really they were able to get so many Republicans on board, even though everybody that voted against it was practically Republican, still 68. So some more Republicans supported it than you might initially think, because can't give Biden a win. It's because it's a giant fuck you to China. We are entering now. Leftists say we're entering a new Cold War era with China. Sorry to break it to you boys, but that's been going on for at least 20 years. China is got big ambitions in Southeast Asia, and we just can't allow that to happen. If they control the South China Sea, we're all screwed. Prices go up through the roof. They're able to leverage the amount of supply chain that they control within their own country and pretty much dictate the rules of the road. Now, say what you will about American imperialism, but what would you rather have? And would you rather have Chinese imperialism dictating the national order, or would you rather have democratic, more Western imperialism, giving us what the world order will be as far as economics? Don't know about you, but I'd rather have liberal Western, maybe some gray spots in there, some moles, but that's way better than authoritarianism. So I realize I just got us all canceled by the commie crew, but I don't care. But everybody,
the challenge with China is that we should have used that as a talking point in these negotiations. They have a Belt and Road initiative where they're investing way more money than we are into their infrastructure, and that is a huge process. So if we're going to sit here and go, okay, well, you're afraid of China overtaking us in all these different areas, why are we going to let them outspend them? Us? Are you saying they're just better? They're more willing to put in the effort to put it. We're Americans. We're better than that. We spend more than everybody. Let's show them how you actually build a country up. Like you should have just played into this as like a nationalist issue. And there's parts in other countries where there's holes in the Belt and Road Initiative that we could take advantage of. Like if you're using politics, you got to know where your opponent is arguing and use their own arguments against them. This would have been a good place to say, look, he should have started with whatever the Belt and Road Initiative money is and said, look, we're just matching China. If you don't think that we should do as much as China's doing, why do you think China should be doing better than America? Like, just play. That's a lot of it, especially like for a lot of these arguments with the Republicans. It's just so blatantly out there that it's easy to do. Like the other perfect one is the January 6th Commission. Anytime I talk to a Republican on that, the question is, why do you believe that your Republican representatives blocked us from finding out that it was actually Antifa and Black Lives Matter who attacked the Capitol? Like Louis Gohmert said that today. Like you just ask them their words.
Oh, I brought that up on a debate recently where we were talking about like why the basically like the utility of doing a congressional commission. And I was like, if it really was Antifa, they should be chomping at the bit to vote for this and to check it out. But like, you want to know why they didn't? Because they know it wasn't. Like,
right.
Yeah.
and to be fair, Maddie,
sure.
The problem you had in that debate was the two people you were debating hadn't read the bill.
Also fair. Yeah. And I linked them to the text because I was like, just in case you want to like do your homework last minute. Like I procrastinate too.
After that, I get it. I had a debate with one of them after it, and they still hadn't read the bill.
God, that's unsurprising.
I think we've talked a bit about the infrastructure bill. I'm excited. I hope you all are excited about this infrastructure bill. Keep your congressmen accountable. Call. Right. Flood. Do it. Right. But I think we do need to talk about the For the People Act versus the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And this is another thing where the filibuster comes into effect and whether or not Joe Manchin is actually out of touch with his own constituents or not. So I recently saw a poll that said that Joe Manchin's most people in West Virginia, about 60% or so, actually support For the People Act. Joe Manchin does not. And to me, and this is just me doing a little bit of mind reading here, but reading the little political waves that are going through there, is that he helped with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and so he wants the credit for it. And also, there's already been Republicans that said that they would support it. Now, we had a comment in here. I want to find it really quick, where Joe Manchin claims that there's enough Republicans to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act as is. Can't find it in here, but I'm pretty sure it was DeSteele that said it. So appreciate you calling that out. But I want to get more thoughts about these two bills. Why do you think Republicans are more likely to support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act versus the For the People Act and that sort of thing?
I just to clarify a question, because I haven't looked at these bills in a while. I think like one of the first videos I did on YouTube was going over these individual bills. The For the People Act is the one that has stronger like anti dark money, anti gerrymandering type stuff in it, right? That's the reason he's
far more stringent. Yeah. Yes. There's a lot.
Then
more.
That's the reason. He doesn't, they rely on the dark money. They don't want to they don't want the what is the government funding, the public financing of elections. It's things like that they're afraid of. But I mean, the other problem with Manchin is his argument for it is, well, I want Republicans to help me even the playing field that they're tilting in their favor, which makes no sense.
Yeah. I also like if I could put on like my tinfoil hat.
Oh.
Yeah, like I know. Like there's also some, I think, shady, like for example, the Heritage Foundation not that long ago was like alluding to having had discussions with Joe Manchin about some of these bills. And like there have been donations by the Heritage Foundation to, so weird that the two Democratic campaigns they donated to are Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema.
And the
Just
Chamber
like
of Commerce.
so weird. And the Chamber of Commerce, exactly. So like that's why, you know, I mean, Joe Manchin's, we see from all the polling that his arguments that, but I have to answer to my voters. So that's why I have to take this stance. We see why that isn't true, because his voters largely support what's in the bill. And so I think you brought up that Das Steele's
yes, I'll put it up
thing
on the
at the
screen
perfect
again.
time, because that is whenever you're wondering, well, what could possibly be motivating this whatever politician to go a certain way, follow the money, because more often than that is going to lead you to exactly why they are voting a certain way. So yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I would be okay with any like voter rights protections passing at this point because it's just so desperately needed. But I think because the HR1 is so much broader in terms of preventing things like gerrymandering and things that we've seen the Republicans use as a strategy to pack the courts, to pack the legislatures, both at the state and federal level. Like we need that bold action. But at this point, again, I would be okay with any strengthening of voter rights protections, because without it, I mean, our democracy is in jeopardy.
No, I 100% agree with that. I also am of the mind that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, while it is fairly good, it doesn't have much teeth, in my opinion. And the reason being is that the Supreme Court had gotten rid of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which was the pre-clearance requirement. And so what they do in order to bring back pre-clearance is that they have I want to say it's 15 years into the Lewis Voting Rights Act. They bring in a 15-year if there's been a court-issued injunction against a state for tampering with voting rights within the last 15 years, you have to get it pre-cleared. Now, that sounds good, right? You think, hey, courts would strike some of this stuff down, and we should be good, Gucci. No, not happening, right? Because the Section 5 struck down in 2013. 15 years from 2013 is 2028. So we already have all these precedents of the time being built up where they're not actually going after states for things that are egregious to voting. There's been a couple of them. I think Georgia had gotten struck down in federal court, a couple of things like that, but it doesn't have much teeth in that
North
sense.
Carolina got
and
struck down.
Yeah, North Carolina that as well. So I just don't see that being enough. And Republicans are like, oh, we're going to federalize the voting system. Who cares? Right?
Maybe that'd be a good thing to standardize it.
Even their argument for that is like, oh, they want to make sure that the federal government, your money goes to the candidate you hate the most. It was like, yeah, but it also goes to the candidate you like.
Yeah.
Like it works.
And it also makes it so that the playing field is truly even, so that the person who eventually then is elected, it's because they were able to appeal to more people and they didn't have to tip the scales just because they're wealthy or just because like corporations like them. It's like, if you're truly for the people and you want representation for the people and not corporations or just a small subset of wealthy elites, you should want that. But I get why they're messaging it in the way they are. Sure. And like I think Cypher mentioned before, like that's one thing that the Republicans do phenomenally is they have killer messaging and killer spin. They do a really good job of that and they're consistent about it. So it's like, I understand why they're messaging it that way, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating.
So we have a couple of comments coming in from Brad G. Walk again. So he's saying that he agrees, though sometimes I think they don't want to follow it, being the money, afraid of any dominoes falling and hitting them. And then he also just commented, mug states' rights. So there you go, right?
Oh my God, I know.
Now, it's mostly the states' rights arguments I mostly get is when I talk about the Civil War, and I'd say every time nobody should care about any of them because they're all traitors. And I get into arguments about people that every single time. But I've heard specifically this to Maddie. Is it harder doing Democratic messaging because all of our points seem to have to be like so much more nuanced, and then Republican talking points are socialism or build the wall.
Yeah. For them,
Yeah.
it's just
Like,
so easy.
like we're
It's
sitting
so
here discussing like the intricacies of a complex bill, and they're just like they're gonna federalize the election, and they're like, oh, I hate it.
I think what here's the thing, it doesn't have to be hard. And I think that's like when I'm working with a campaign or an organization and we're crafting this, that's sort of the point, because I think Democrats do ourselves a disservice when we try to make it so nuanced and overly complicated.
Yeah.
And I think we get caught up in that a little bit too much. And what we really need to do more of is distill it down to like, what are the critical points? Like what the Republicans do a really good job of is they have these sort of common themes that are present in everything that they're either pushing for or pushing against. So whether that's like, no, we're pro-America, we're pro like natural born citizens, we're pro-business. So they can wrap every single talking point they have around those like tent poles, right? We need to establish what our tent poles are in that capacity and then shape things from there so that if we want to be nuanced, it all ties back to a central idea. So something like, no, we are the party of wanting everyone to thrive, no matter where you come from, no matter how much money you happen to grow up with. Like, we want everyone to have an equal opportunity to thrive in this country, because that's what the American dream's about. Like, I think we could do a good job of like reclaiming that whole patriotism narrative.
Oh, for sure.
Because like there's so much there, and that is something that resonates with moderates, with people on the right. I mean, and also if you work in any sort of organizing, we're not trying to appeal to like the far right people because they just simply aren't going to be the ones who are persuadable. Right. There's a great book on it if you're interested. It's called Merge Left. That is fantastic. It like changed my perspective on how to craft progressive messaging, especially when you have like a moderate audience in mind. But I mean, it's about speaking the language that those people use to discuss things that they care about, and framing it in terms of like why this is like the most patriotic thing you can do, like supporting immigrants that come to this country and like help make our country great. That is patriotic as hell. Like, how do we put messaging around that? But you're right. Like it that makes it so much more frustrating for me though, when I see politicians just do a piss poor job of messaging these things, especially when it's something that's so popular. And I'm like, you are like whiffing it.
There's like a lot of the things they eat their own.
Yes, that too. Well, and that's
I was going to get into that too.
I mean, also frustrating. Yeah.
100%. Sean, you were trying to break in with a point earlier. I want to get your input on this, just so it's not lost in the weeds.
Don't think I was trying to break in, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything on this one, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. No problem. I thought you were trying to break in, but it's all good. About the whole messaging thing and us eating our own, everything like that. That is kind of just a function of the broad left coalition, because liberals so this is a PragerU talking point. And when you're talking about actual conservatives, it's not as wrong as some liberals might want it to be. But we're not dealing with actual conservatives anymore, right? We're talking about Trumpicans, we're talking about nationalists, we're talking about all these other people. But as far as like the Overton window, the American conservative, like not nationalists, but like, talking people like George Will and, Mitt Romney and then people like in those capacities, and liberals. So, moderate left people, there's more in common that they have with each other than with the extremes on either end. But with Republicans, it's not as true as it is with Democrats, because they are wedded to tradition. They are wedded to all these ideas, and they don't want to change. It's in the name. It's in conservatism. It's in conserve. Don't go too fast. It's the antithetical of what is happening in tech, right? Move fast and break things. That is not what conservatives want at all. They want to move slow, steady, wins the race, turtling up, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those situations where the left has a point with that, and like classic conservatives kind of have a point with that. But at the same time, when it comes to cultural issues, we're winning the game, right? Liberals on the cultural issues are vastly different than conservatives on cultural issues. So that's why you have this kind of tension there, right? And that's why I said earlier, we're gonna get canceled by the commies with my American stance, right? Because that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna come in and they're gonna cancel me because I'm not a good comrade. Ain't no war but the class war. True, but there's other stuff that matters too. So we need to keep everything in, right. My feminism is intersectional because that's the only thing that exists, right? So there you go.
I agree. No, and that's like sometimes, especially as like, so my personal politics are very far left. However, I try to govern my own like political ideology and the way I view certain things through a utilitarian lens, where it's like, in my opinion, because we live under a capitalist society, there's no such thing as ethical consumption. So like, I kind of start from that point of like, there's no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. But what I can do in this current system is like the policies that I want to push for are policies that help the as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, while fighting for that long-term systemic change and moving that Overton window and making, like, I think a lot of times when you pass a bill that maybe doesn't have as much meat as you wish it did, but it helps serve as a blueprint for what's possible, that opens people up to the idea of like, oh, what, you know what? We should do more because this worked so well. Or this, you know what? It's almost like you're delivering a proof of concept. And I think for a lot of Americans for so long, unfortunately, the prevailing message that's been fed to us over the media and over, straight from politicians has been, well, it's just not possible here. No, well, that's just too much. No, we just can't do that. And it's people internalize that. So in order to change their mind, they need to see some sort of case study or they need proof of like, well, I need to know that it's possible here. Not just, because obviously you can point out how, especially with healthcare, how it happens. Like we're the only, developed country in the world that doesn't have government provided like universal healthcare of some capacity. But they say, oh, but it's different here. But it's different here because that's what they've been fed. So it's on us to change that narrative and to demonstrate why it's possible and do it from like an optimistic, hopeful standpoint, because I think that is also something that we forget about, just like discourse in America in general, is that Americans like feeling hopeful and positive and like optimistic, because that's the whole point about like the American dream, right? So why don't we do that for these conversations? And like in my talking to voters and stuff, like I've had a lot of success by just reframing things from that standpoint, or just uncovering. I'm like, well, what do you care about, and identifying that common ground and sort of using that as planting a seed, because they're not going to change their mind in one instance. And like you said, I think I forget who spoke to this before, but like, the change isn't going to be like overnight. No. It's something that we as activists, as people who talk about this stuff, who have audiences, like it's on us to help move things forward so that, you move mountains over a long period of time, right? Yes. Like you build something over a long period of time, and it's on us to keep that going and to push people in the right direction and hopefully accelerate it a little bit so we can make life better, especially for marginalized people. Oh, sorry, 100%. I know I talk a lot. I'm like so passionate about this.
I love it. And there's only 4 of us on the show tonight rather than 6. So it's great. You're doing your thing. I love it. No need to apologize. We do have a couple we do have a couple of comments that I want to get in here, but before that, I do want to piggyback off of your point, MaddyCakes, about the art of the possible. I think it's interesting that we're talking about, and this is going to be me putting a little political knowledge. Oh, okay. I'll wait in a second just until she gets back. But in this regards, there's just various different things that we could do with this. And one of the things is, I'll pull in this comment, and then when Maddie sits back down, I'll make my point, is that from Truth Lost over here at Facebook saying, careful, many of the most left policies are assured majorities, even among Republicans, if you just ask in an unambiguous way. So this goes to the point with messaging that Maddie was just making. We have to message, we being large society here, Democrats, liberals, whatever, have to be able to do this messaging in a way that actually breaks through that barrier to get people engaged. So most people like Medicare for all, and then you start talking about nuances and whatever. If you say, hey, I want everybody to have healthcare, everybody supports it, because no one's going to say they don't want everybody to have healthcare, right?
Well,
and then
there
for it.
People who say it, but I think the Medicare for all thing now, we have a really good talking point. The vaccine is like the perfect thing. It's like we made care for people who had COVID free. With there was exceptions. There was some fuckery going around, and some hospitals charge people, and there's still people who, part of the vaccine hesitancies, people are like, I don't believe it's free. But like, we did it for this thing, and we're like, look, we did it for COVID, we could do it for everything else. Like that's the baseline there. Like when we're talking about telling people like they're hopeful, it's like, it's here, we have it, we've done it, you've seen that it works. Did your healthcare system explode? Did you lose access to your doctor? Did the vaccine turn you into a mutant? I mean, it might have magnetized you, but
It's also
go ahead.
Sorry, it also makes me think of the UBI argument, and now that we've seen all the stimulus throughout COVID and all the unemployment, all the extra stuff, that's somewhat an example of the UBI situation.
California, they have it.
Yeah,
there's different pilot programs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's like what I pointed out when people talked about like why we couldn't do a bigger stimulus. And I was like, there's countries that have so much, like, are way less wealthy than the United States, and they were easily giving their citizens like $5,000 a month, and like somehow they haven't descended into like unforgivable debt and chaos and anarchy. Like somehow they made it work. So seems to me, and I'm like, again, my economics background, I'm like, most of that money then just gets pumped back into the market because you're giving it to people who are more prone to spend it. But like, seems to me like it seems to be working everywhere else. And if we are really like the most wealthy, powerful country in the world, like I think we can probably swing it, you guys.
For sure. To the point that I was making, Maddie, about this whole art of the possible, it's kind of interesting that we're channeling Hillary Clinton of about the 1970s rather than Hillary Clinton of the 2008 kind of mindset here with this, that are talking about the hope and change and the hopefulness and getting people to engage. But you have to move the ball forward in order for people to actually believe you. If you keep just losing, you're going to just keep losing. And then we had another comment that I want to bring in about the stuff that we've been talking about. It is from Jane the Message. They say, I think there is something more basic with the eating each other thing. They have autism and were bullied a lot as a kid. It's fundamentally looks like bullying behavior to them. And that is 100% true. I hadn't thought of it that way. The whole thing, it's dogpiling. It's getting people to like, now there is social utility in public shaming. So don't get me wrong. I understand it, but you got to temper it somewhat. You can't just go half cocked off of people and like, you're going to shoot yourself. You're going to go off half cocked, shooting yourself in the foot, not changing somebody's mind. Right. A lot of these times, especially online discourse, right? Because everybody's just looking for their dopamine, their cognitive dissonance. Anybody that can prove that they are correct, they're going to gravitate towards. So I think that's a good point, though.
Well, also we got to pick what you're going to eat yourself over. Like if you're going to build a circular firing squad, it should be something like Ilhan Omar is the perfect example of a pointless circular firing squad, because the outrage against her is pretty much just from stuff taken out of context. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's no reason for us to constantly be every time she says something on Israel, they're going to call her anti-Semitic, regardless of what she says. And then every Democrat's like, well, she's got to apologize for that. Like, that's not right. Like, if you're going to make, you got to, have an actual argument for, not eating your own. Like there are obviously times when you need to like deal with somebody within your own party that's wrong. Like I think the only really good example for the Democrats would be Al Franken. And even that's kind of murky. But like if we had people like Steve King's or Marjorie Taylor Greene's in our party, that's when then you should be able to eat your own because they should not be part of your party.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's when someone in the party, like there's a difference between holding someone accountable and having to answer for, if they've done something that stands counter to the party's values, and, have proven themselves to be someone who like we can't trust to fight for us or someone we can't trust as a leader. But like at the same time, I think what a lot of times the circular firing squad becomes is that it disproportionately targets women, disproportionately targets like Black and brown leaders because they're already like sort of these easier targets. Because and I don't know that it's necessarily done consciously sometimes. I think it's just because in our society, we have a lot of internalized racism, internalized misogyny. I mean, shit, you see it on Twitch panels, how women are more likely to be talked over or, told that like they don't know what they're talking about, or they're more often like when you make a point, like demanding immediate proof of like, well, where is that? Where does it say that? Whereas they give men a lot more the benefit of the doubt. That's also why, by the way, on those panels, I like make a point to say, no, I'm not done talking, because like women are just talked over so much more. And I think a lot of it is just, it's subconscious. It's not like a guy is there and he's like, I'm going to talk over this woman. Like that woman's talking. It's like, no. Like, it's internalized misogyny. I have a lot of it too, which is why like sometimes when I see a woman, it's like who's being assertive, my first thought will be like, oh, so bossy. But then I have to I realize I'm having that thought and I'm like, like, am I thinking that because like of my own like internalized misogyny, right? And I think with people like Ilhan Omar and AOC, like you're seeing them come under fire for so many things that really they don't deserve to have that kind of heat. And then there's other, there are plenty of other like male lawmakers
avoided after the dumb stuff he said.
Exactly. And they just don't. And you know what? There may be some repercussions or responses to their stuff, but it's not with the same fervor or intensity that you see with other people. So, and it is, of course, something you see mostly with Democrats, not Republicans, because the Republicans are more likely to circle the wagons and protect, versus Democrats want to be the party of accountability, of like living our values, whatever. But sometimes that comes at the cost of like just, sometimes I feel like people are just trying to be like hall monitors for stuff that like we don't need hall monitors for.
And it's a lot of people like I keep bringing up this point. I'm just going to do it again. Last time I'll make it, but it's people looking for that validation. And so if they can get like, 20, 30 likes, they're going to feel better about themselves. And it doesn't matter if this person's depressed or one of the happiest people on earth. You're still going to want to feel better about yourself. So if somebody's validating your opinion, no matter how horrid it is, regardless of what position you're taking, if you're a righty or a lefty, it doesn't matter. You're gonna do it, and it's going to reinforce that behavior. So one of the things that we like to do over here at the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup is share a little bit of news of the weird to break up the kind of seriousness of the news. Talk about a weird conspiracy theory, like that's not like super like important or anything like that, or is like some weird thing. Like one time we talked about a Roomba that set off a security alarm and had the cops called. Got the cops called in because a woman thought that her house was being broken into. Just general little fun stories like that. So on today's show, we got 2 stories here, and I'm going to share my screen and read a little bit about it. Can everybody see the screen okay on the show?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, Central PA DoorDash driver impersonated Trump family members in Gays for Trump scam, feds say. So a 22-year-old Central Pennsylvania man posed as members of the Trump family online to raise more than $7,000 for a made-up political organization, Gays for Trump, then spent the money on his own living expenses, federal officials said. Josh Hall, of Mischenberg, was arrested Tuesday for wire fraud and identity theft. The FBI said FBI and U.S. Justice Department announced in a joint statement. From September of 2019 to December of 2020, Hall posed as a former President Trump family member, including his own brother, Robert Trump, teen son, Barron, and sister, Elizabeth Trump Grau, who is in her late 70s and lives in Florida, according to the federal officials and the New York Times. Hall, a DoorDash driver from Mischenberg, Pennsylvania, raised $7,300 by promoting a made-up group called Gay Voices for Trump, which he later admitted did not exist, the outlet said. Hall had former President Trump himself believing that the Grau account was real at one point, tweeting, "Thank you, Elizabeth Love," the Times reported. Hall led hundreds of people to believe they were donating to an organization that didn't exist by pretending to be someone he wasn't, as alleged FBI Assistant Director in Charge William F. Sweeney Jr. said. Hall's last year told the Times he was just trying to rally up MAGA supporters and have fun. So that is the first little fun news story of today. What does this say about society? Are people just super gullible, or is this going to what I was just saying? Is this something that should be considered illegal because they are getting trod with fraud and identity theft? Thoughts?
Oh boy, yeah. I think it speaks to how easily people, especially on social media, can fall for something and like think that like it's real. Like it's so easy to make something look real as like a Facebook group or something else. And I mean, it almost speaks to how we need to maybe build up a healthy amount of skepticism when presented with like these groups, especially a group who's like, we're such and such for Trump. So like during the 2020 Democratic primary, I actually started like for fun. It was obviously parody. But I started a Twitter I was an Elizabeth Warren supporter. And I started a Twitter that was Dogs for Warren. And like made it where I was always like reposting like dog photos where people like went to an event and there was a dog, or, you know, like Bailey, her dog was at an event. I did a post about it. And so, but like clearly like, and the campaign actually reached out to make sure this was done. Like I had like a whole thing in the profile that said like parody, not affiliated with the campaign, whatever. And that was clear, but I feel like I don't know. It's like it's kind of like a form of catfishing, right? When you profess to be this thing, but you're not. And it's really to, like make it look like a particular politician or issue or something has broad grassroots support when they very much don't. So like, yeah, I'm not surprised that it's being, called fraud, or at least in legal terms being treated like fraud, because it like that's kind of what catfishing is, right? It's online, like a form of online fraud, and yeah, and it's cringe.
Oh, and it's super cringe. It's like if there wasn't money involved, I would be like, whatever. But since people got blinked out of money, yeah, that's very, very, very bad.
Dogs for Warren took no money. It was just me wanting to repost dog photos. Really, great.
Didn't the same type of thing happen with Bannon and the wall money? Didn't they do something similar?
Oh, yes.
And going back to this article, I think the funniest part of it is the fact that Trump tweeted at his sister about this. Like, yeah. Like when didn't his brother, like, didn't Robert just die? Like, didn't he die recently?
Yeah, and you know what the tinfoil hat theory is too? The reason they didn't say a cause of death is people think he died of COVID.
Oh, that might be true.
But like the fact that this guy's
just 1 second. So for clarity, this happened between 2018 and 2020. So if he just died recently, it's not.
I don't remember when.
2020.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
But like the other thing is he's pretending to be some of his family. So like how little do you talk to your family that they're potentially organizing this thing? And it's not like he did go down to Florida. like I understand he's not talking to Mary Trump. But like his sister, you know, you maybe especially like we kind of know how much like he wanted to grift off this money. So if he thought his sister was involved, wouldn't like some part of him be like, well, she's making money off my name, I want some of that.
I don't think Trump
it just
even
feels weird
thought
that he got
it
involved
through
in it,
that
but
far.
not involved.
I honest to God don't think he even thought like to that point. That's what like a rational person would think, or someone who like hasn't like, I don't know. I legitimately don't think he even like connected the dots to that point where he was like, wait a minute, I should be getting some of this. Like, I think, and this is, again, maybe this is me just like not liking Trump. Maybe this shows my bias. I just think he's really dumb. So like giving him the benefit. Yeah.
But like, I think you have to wait. Like, how dumb is he versus, you know, how much is there like the greed aspect? But I just think it's mind blowing the fact that he thought his sister was involved with this, and then at no point was like reaching out to her to like clarify.
I think too, it seems like based on everything we know about Trump, even if he was talking to his sister, like from what people say when they like met with him in his office or whatever, it's like he's not listening. He just wants to like talk at you about whatever like thing he saw on Fox News that morning. So like even if he were in conversation with his sister, I highly doubt that like even if she told him she wasn't involved, I bet like it probably just like it wasn't about him and it wasn't like praising him. So it probably went right over his head to the point where like he fucking forgot because his brain is tapioca. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I think because money was involved, super cringe, right? We did have a comment come in again from Facebook over here that let me try to find it. So, and who's going after the Trumps collecting money for their own use. So this goes back into the whole like Trump campaign getting money for things and putting it to other things. But there was that clear disclaimer down at the bottom, right? Everybody read that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They're never getting that money back. I mean, there was just a story like yesterday about how the state, there's multiple state GOP campaigns that have like massive gaps in their financings where they were like funneling money into his PAC, and they're just like, yeah, we're just not going to tell you where the money went.
Yeah.
So for another little news segment of the weird here, we got a conspiracy theory involving Joe Biden. So hopefully you guys can see the screen all right. So there's a Joe Biden clone conspiracy spreads like wildfire on Facebook. So this is as of yesterday. The bizarre conspiracy theory to circulate on Facebook claims President Joe Biden may actually be a clone because the real one is either in custody or executed, the platform told Newsweek in its investigation. A Telegram post from Nicholas Vinheim, a UK-based supporter of former President Donald Trump who creates video content rallying against the so-called deep state, made the outlandish claim last week. His Telegram channel has more than 100,000 subscribers, and his Biden clone post is now beginning to spread on Facebook. There was a corresponding spike in Google searches for Biden clone. Vienna has a group pumping out conspiracy theories on Facebook and well-followed accounts on Twitter and YouTube, maintaining a presence on these social media platforms despite big tech crackdown on misinformation. On Telegram, the following message was shared alongside an old photograph of Biden. This is the real Joe Biden. Either he was executed for treason or he's alive in custody. The Joe Biden we see today is a lookalike, double or clone being used by Trump military alliance to help wake up the masses and see what America would have been like if the New World Order had been successful. Fortunately, Vladimir Putin says that the New World Order has failed, and President Trump says he is going to take back the White House soon, aka August 4th. Newsweek has contacted Facebook for comment. Facebook, which is investigating the clone post, does not remove false news as a matter of policy, though it does work to limit their spread in users' feeds. In its community standards, Facebook states, reducing the spread of false news on Facebook is a responsibility we take very seriously. It goes on to the brand, doing so a challenging and sensitive issue. We want to help people stay informed without stifling productive public discourse, says Facebook community standards. There is also a fine line between false news and satire or opinion. For those reasons, we don't remove false news from Facebook, but instead significantly reduce its distribution by showing it lower into the newsfeed. All right, I'm done reading that article. So, So this is clearly QAnon nonsense, but what does it say? What does it say? Come on, let's talk about it.
I hadn't heard this one before, and I thought I was plugged into on most of them, but like, so the argument is if it's a Trump clone to see what we could have been like, that implies that Trump is okaying the policies that they're pushing.
No, it's a Biden clone in order to because it's a Biden clone.
It's controlled by
it's
Trump.
Controlled by the Trump. Yeah.
So that means
but somehow they had lying around in the event that Biden would, because if it was a clone, then like you have to like birth it. So this is a clone that presumably like came at the same, like was born around the same time as Joe Biden, so that they're the same age. That's the what a long game.
Also different than the clone where it's actually Donald Trump's brain and Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's probably a different one. I haven't heard of that.
That's a different third clone.
That's a different one. But also, like, why would you go through all of this trouble if you could do all this stuff anyway? Like, if you had this, ability to remove the head of another party who potentially won this election and to replace it with a clone so that you could prove some other thing to come back. Why? Wouldn't it be simpler to actually prove that he stole the election?
No,
I mean,
because you have to keep people engaged, and this placates to their engagement, and it's fun. Let's be real. Conspiracy theories are fun.
They are.
We're having a good time talking about it. They're having a good time following all the breadcrumbs and Q posts and Q creeps. By the way, everybody, little did you know, my show, Crowdsourced Politics, is actually a Q-proof because my ending statement, keep your head up through the political storm, happened before Q. So there you go, folks. We are actually a Q-proof now. Said it right here. Hopefully everybody blows this up and we become that thing. But hey, that's just the way of the nature of the game. But anyways,
oh my God. The people love conspiracy theories because they mimic, like, when people love following them, because it mimics the same process you would take if you were like arriving at a conclusion using logic. The problem is that just like it's based on a foundation of false pretenses and nonsense, but like you have to accept that point, and then the rest of it, like it mimics as if you're like doing an investigative whatever, like and I think also it gives people, like, the reason it's so appealing, especially to those who like feel disenfranchised or alienated, is it almost makes them feel like, you know, I'm in the know, like I'm the one. It gives them that sense of connectedness, where, you know, they're like, no, everyone else just doesn't get it. I'm in the know. I don't know. Boomers, we need to like make sure boomers know how to use Facebook and like decipher like news that's just like fantastical. Because I used to, you know, like, remember when you were little and you were in the line at the grocery store and you saw the cover of the National Enquirer, and it was like Bat Boy and like ridiculous things, and I'm just like, this might as well be a comic book. Like, I think we need to, I don't know, make it clear that like that's what these things are. Are they funny and entertaining? Yes, they're super funny because they're just absurd. But like, no, I think Fresh Faces hit the nail on the head. Like, if we had the technology to like actually make a clone and like replace a leader of the Democratic Party, like, first of all, we have more things to worry about then. Like, that should be like, this is just an evidence of like, oh shit, like, maybe we should be terrified of everything. Maybe they are. Maybe that just makes it appealing. But also, like, if we had clone technology, like, I don't know, there's so much more cooler shit we could do with that. So
think about how long everybody could live. Never have to worry about an organ donation ever again. Petri dish organ donations. Like, come on, let's be real. It'd be so awesome.
It's just absurd. I'm waiting. Yeah, like, I just wish people maybe view that stuff with a more critical lens. When people say, "Oh, but I've done my own research," I'm like, "Yeah, but like, are your resources all ending in .net? Because that should be
.co.uk.ru."
Yeah.
speaking to the point Maddie made about Facebook, hey, if you want to join the good fight, go ahead and if you still have a Facebook account, go ahead and join the Facebook community over at Facebook group/Tribune Commons. For those that might not know, we run a debate group. That's what gave birth to this podcast, this stream. Everything that you're seeing here became out of our experiences on Facebook and wanting to just get into a new level, right? So we run a Facebook debate community. We try to keep it respectful. We try to keep it very nuanced and try to get everything we want in that regard in order to try to increase the public or make the public discourse better. So go ahead, if you still have a Facebook and want to get involved and help teach the boomers a lesson, join our community, get some tips, and you can get us there. So I think we did a good job covering these conspiracy theories, and actually talking about this whole New World Order one brings up a interesting comment to talk about with the G7 summit. As everybody knows, every time any of the powerful nations get together, it's a conspiracy against the working man and you, a true proud American. So at G7, there's been some talks. Biden's going to be meeting with Putin, and there has been some interesting developments that I think the left should like, but let's see. So does anybody want to talk about what that might be, or do you want me to go ahead and summarize the whole tax thing for the G7?
You can go for it.
Okay.
And then we can hop on.
Yeah, cool. So for those that may not know, the members of the G7 have agreed to a 15% minimum tax rate for corporations, as well as taxing profits where they're generated rather than where the corporation is their headquarters is located. So no more moving to Ireland to get that sweet, sweet corporate tax rate, because there you're going to be charged at the home that you reside in. The interesting thing with this is that would also help with things such as telecommuting, not being able to, because if you're going to send your workers to another country, say Ukraine or Belarus, and hire them there rather than hire Americans, well, you're still going to be charged on the profit you make in America. So it's not actually saving you money. So that's an interesting thing that maybe people might not think about. But let's talk about it. What is this, guys?
I mean,
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think this is a loophole. Like, closing this loophole is long overdue. And because it's important for us if we want to bolster American industry, especially in things like manufacturing that have largely been outsourced. Like, what's the best way to incentivize companies to invest in American labor? Well, it's to make it more cost effective than going overseas. And like, I think also this different way of taxing better reflects how business is done. Like, it makes sense that if like the majority of your revenue is generated in the United States, there's no reason to then view it any differently than if the company was based here. Like, that just, I don't know, it makes sense, and it prevents these companies from incorporating elsewhere, whether it's Ireland or the Cayman Islands or whatever. Because, you know, at the end of the day, these corporations are going to do what is best for their bottom line. So when we have to think about crafting policy, we have to work within that parameter and think, okay, well, if that's going to be the key motivator for their behavior, how do we move the needle? Like, what can we do to influence that? And I think this is really smart, because I think it'd be hard for someone to argue against it without basically just saying like, but like, I want like billionaires to have more money. It's like, yeah, but no, like they're gonna these corporations are still going to make like billions in profit or whatever. Like, don't worry, it's not going away. Just like, you're gonna see a little bit more benefit from it because we're gonna have more money to fund goods, like the services that every single American relies on in order to have a high quality of life. And then maybe even like new services that'll make your life even better. And wouldn't that be just a treat?
Well, it's also because they don't make the, you know, they don't exist to make their profits without the help of, you know, the taxes that pave the roads or do the planes or however they can move business, if they do it online or create the broadband connection. So I mean, there's the race to the bottom that we have. When Amazon was supposed to be in New York, and then they're like, oh, AOC ran it away because she wanted them to not have like 45 years of no tax or whatever the absurdity that it was. Like, it's good. Like the argument against it is, oh, well, we have to, it's going to hurt American businesses because now we have to, because other countries are going to raise their rates. But like, we have to raise our rates too. It's like, it's a minimum, a universal minimum. So everyone is playing on the same bottom line. So if your argument is, oh, we got to hurt American businesses because we have to raise their rates, well, then that means they're not even paying that now. So how do you have your, the further you track back this argument, the less it makes sense to be against it.
Yeah,
Respect.
Totally. And like
true.
Not only do they benefit from infrastructure things like roads, like their entire workforce, presumably, or the vast majority of it, they benefit because those were people that were educated through the American education system. Those are people, Americans who are able to lead safe lives because they have a local police department, a local firefighter department. Like they are able to exist somewhere where like they aren't at risk of being poisoned because they can buy goods knowing that they're made with products that like aren't dangerous to their health, or at least like in a way, like everyone benefits from government programs, and it's only fair that corporations like pay their fair share to contribute to society, because as a whole that makes us stronger. Like even from an economic standpoint, it always blows my mind when you have people that describe themselves as like avowed capitalists, but argue against investing in widespread like national social programs. Because I'm like, well, if I'm a capitalist and I want to draw, get labor from the workforce, I benefit from a workforce that's healthy, that's educated, that doesn't have to worry about losing housing or feeding their family. Like that allows for them to be far more productive if and when they end up working for my firm. And like, so these are things that are immensely helpful. And I think the reason sometimes there's pushback with corporations is because they have that very myopic view or short-term view of they're just looking for the next, they're looking to hit their quarterly goals. And they're expecting exponential growth in a world with finite resources, which on its own is going to play against each other and is just very silly. So I think this is a good thing. And I think of course they're going to use scare tactics by saying like, it's going to hurt businesses, because that's like their line for everything. But what I would say is like, right now, the people who are hurting are the American working class, the American middle class. So I think it's about time that corporate America does its part to support those people, because that's who's hurting. Like if we want to talk about who's at risk and what the opportunity cost is.
Won't someone think of the job creators? Why?
I know.
Well,
oh my God, I
this
hate that word.
This is the other thing, like we're going to see with, I think that the service who's going to get hit hardest as people come back to work is the service industry for like tip workers, because their services are so low, and they're like, oh, well, we can't find anybody. And then there's like glowing articles written about, oh, this ice cream person decided to do like something drastic by doubling his workers' pay. It's like you're seeing that these type of things are being pushed now, so it's coming. So you either go along with it and be ready for it. Like it's not like these companies are broke. They had historic profits, and then they got a massive tax cut, and then they got a massive wealth investment for the first stimulus package. It was just a giant money cannon that they fired on top of all of them. And it's not like, well, the more that they and especially if you're like Amazon or something, the more that people are able to learn things, the better they can like produce for your products. Like Maddie's right. Like these people, like just basing people to invest into other things would make them more willing to work for you. Yeah, I mean, people are forced into some of these jobs now, but like everyone is aware that Amazon, works you to the bone. It's not like this stuff just keeps coming out.
Yeah. And it's funny because like you see all these articles that are like doomsday scenarios where they're like, ooh, well, if we're going to have to pay people a wage of $15 an hour, then we're going to have to raise prices. No one ever seems to do think pieces on how slashing executive pay would lower prices. No one
Or that
seems
the
to.
prices
I
are
haven't
raising
seen
anyway.
that think piece. I'd love to. So yeah, and then if you look at like historically what executives are taking home relative to what like their lowest paid employee is making, it's absurd to see just how much executive pay has skyrocketed. But we love to focus on how those greedy workers who just want like non-poverty wages, when it's like, no, it's that's not the problem here. The problem is that like the C-suite and executives, stock shareholders, that sort of thing, that they make a ton of money from like stock buybacks and dividends and whatever the fuck, like that. Those are the people who are driving prices up because they're refusing to relinquish any sort of, like, they've been taking a larger chunk of the pie and they refuse to give any of it back. And so who does that fall on to? People that are just struggling to pay for rent, like pay for food that isn't McDonald's every night. And so, yeah, I would love to see more pressure on like where they're like, oh, we can't afford to pay our workers that. It's like, have you ever tried like not like giving absurd bonuses to your executives who like already own 5 homes?
Have you thought about not using that profit to buy back shares and just give your people a dividend and maybe a pay raise? I don't know. Just a thought, right? Like you were saying, just a thought. And as Fresh Faces New Ideas was saying, we already see there's upward wage pressure on companies right now because of COVID spending a bit. Also because people have just completely analyze their life and trying to find new things during COVID, trying to find new hobbies, trying to find like themselves again or what they actually want to do. And maybe they don't want to go back to that shitty job where the boss sexually harasses them. They don't get good tips. They have to act like the asshole is a good guy so they can make sure they make ends meet. Maybe they don't want to have their boss taking tips from them and stuff like that. Maybe they don't want to have to clean the ice cream machine every 4 days out of the McDonald's thing, and every time it's broken and get berated by customers because there's no goddamn ice cream. Fucking McDonald's. So maybe they don't want to deal with all that shit. Who knows?
No, I agree. And it's like, you see that a lot here in the Bay Area. I mean, this is one of the most expensive markets in the country to live. And in a lot of places, things like restaurant servers or Starbucks baristas, like those are going unfilled because the people who would typically like go do that job, they can't afford to live anywhere near where that job is. And so they're like, why would I do that? So you're seeing the wage posted for those job openings start to go up because, and it's about damn time. Like, because these corporations have benefited from people just like desperate because they have to pay rent, they have to do something else. And the pandemic gave everyone a chance to kind of take a step back and be like, I'm worth more than that. Like, me giving my labor to someone for, a full work week, my labor is worth more than living in poverty. So I think it's a good thing. And I would love to see workers, even more so like banding together and demanding better wages. And we're seeing that more, and it's really exciting. So yeah, because no one deserves to live in poverty, like especially in the wealthiest country in the world. It's criminal. It should be criminal.
And to that point, Brad G. Walk over at Twitch makes a great point, is that they, being corporations, prefer to keep them, being workers, coming and going, avoiding pensions, healthcare, etc. Better have them naive, people collecting a check to life, instead of having to pay them and allow them to wisen up. Basically, if you're not paying somebody enough to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which is funny that idiom even exists, then you keep them subservient and reliant on the corporation. Oh, lost Sean, but that's all right.
And also, last thing, like when corporations basically like pay their workers poverty wages and then also like don't give them benefits, they're essentially asking the government to subsidize their business, because like this happens with Walmart, this happens with McDonald's, where a lot of their workers, even if they work full time, aren't able to make ends meet. So they still qualify for things like food stamps, for Medicaid, for other things. And so like we're doing that. Like when they talk about who's the leech on society, it's like the taxpayers are the ones subsidizing your bullshit because you're making your workers have to like source their resources to survive elsewhere because you're too cheap to fund that properly and to pay them what they're owed. And so that you can report a better quarterly earning and like have a big stockholder party and clink champagne glasses and feel important and like it's just so stupid and it's so transparent. And again, I'm glad that workers are standing up and demanding what they're worth.
How would I know my place in the pecking order if I wasn't on top of somebody else?
Right.
We have a variety of topics that we wanted to cover tonight. However, we are at about 2 hours and 10 minutes of streaming. We like to keep it to just 2 hours. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up with another little fun news thing, which I'll put on the stream in 1 second. I had it up, but I don't have it up. Oh, that's a video file. Wrong thing. 1 second. Sorry, everybody. So we have this coming from GOP Representative Gohmert suggests altering Moon's orbit to combat climate change. The Texas congressman asked whether there was anything else the U.S. Forest Service could do to change the course of the Moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun. Representative Louis Gohmert, Republican from Texas, suggested at a congressional hearing that climate change could be combated by altering the orbit of the Moon and asked U.S. Service Forest officials whether there was any way the agency could do it. Gohmert made the comments Tuesday during the House Natural Resource Committee hearing on 4 bills as he was questioning Jennifer Elberman, an associate deputy chief of the Forest Service. I understand from what's been testified to the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, you want very much to work on the issues of climate change, Gohmert said, referring to the Bureau of Land Management. I was informed by the immediate past director of NASA that they found that the Moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. We know there's been significant solar flare activity, he said. And so, is there anything else that the National Forest Service or Bureau of Land Management could do to change the course of the Moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? Obviously, that would have profound effects on our climate. So, climate change denial and cuckoo conspiracy ways of dealing with it when it's just easier to cut plastics and vapors. But what is this? What's up? What's this little? Let's talk about it a little bit.
Wow. Yeah, where like they will literally say like, let's change the Moon's orbit before they're like, maybe we should not like use so many fossil fuels. Like, oh my God. Like this is also the problem with a lot of, I think, elected officials who have maybe been in office for a long time and like mistake any idea that pops into their head as like, I'm the first person to think this. It must be significant. Maybe in this case, right? Maybe in this case, he's right. But like, it's like, listen, you can dance around like, well, have we tried this? Have we considered this? It's like, dude, like all the experts are telling you what's causing climate change. Like the consensus is so clear. And I know that maybe that's hard, especially as a congressman from Texas, because Texas makes a lot of money. Yeah, like from the oil industry. And like, I get that. So, you know, he's looking for anything that could possibly let them off the hook, but it's like, that's just not how it is. So either like you continue down this path and your fellow Texans keep getting fucking blasted with once in a century hurricanes and like extreme weather because you refuse to do anything, or you do the hard thing and like take action before we make a significant portion of our world uninhabitable. And let's like not just like leave the moon the fuck alone. Like just leave it alone. Okay. Because if we somehow did something wrong, like the moon controls tides, it controls a lot of things. Let's just
they want to move the Earth, right?
We're
already messing up the Earth. Let's not like move. We're like, let's prove that we can like successfully fix and take care of our planet before we start messing with like our satellite Like the moon, like let's just prove that we can do it. We can fix things here first before we're like, oh, have we thought about like changing the moon's orbit? Also, the moon's orbit changes because it's slowly moving further and further away from the Earth. So oh boy, yeah, just.
But Maddie, think about it, if they change the moon's orbit and it changes the tides, that just opens a ton more coastal real estate to do development on. Beach houses for everybody.
Or beach houses for no one.
Yeah, whichever.
The amount of resources and energy.
The truly fun thing about this quote is, if you actually watch the video, he calls the Bureau of Land Management BLM.
Yeah, that's the abbreviation they use.
Yeah,
that's been the abbreviation they use for
right, which is, but like if you're just just watching this clip, it's kind of weird that he says. The other thing is he leads into it saying that he talked to people at NASA about this, and then decided that the correct people to ask this question to was the people who work with the trees and the land, not the space people, everybody else. And like immediately after that, you see this woman's face. And she's just like, what did he just ask me? Like, it is so incredible. Like, the more you think about this.
That face, you'll notice a lot of women who are experts in their field make that exact face all the time on things like Twitch, on things like
you and all of your channels.
Yeah.
Bring out the side eye.
It's like the more you look at this quote, the funnier it gets, and the more like brain power it takes to process how he got to this conclusion is just, it's like I think it might be my favorite thing I've ever seen anybody say on television. It's like unbelievable how wild this thought process came to be and said from a person in Congress, and it makes you wonder, like, most of them probably shouldn't be there if these are the type of thoughts that they're like coming out with. Like, that person who had that train of thought should not be allowed to decide laws that affect my body.
Anything. We have Taylor Greene in office, so I mean that pretty much cinched it right there.
Jewish space lasers, yeah. Like it's the same thing as, I forget who it was, but there was that one like scene, I think it was a senator, where he was asking Facebook, like, how do you make money? Oh, if it's free, how do you make money? And everyone's like, what? And like, but there's right. It's like we print the monies in the Facebook machine. The more memes equals the more monies. But like, there's such a disconnect in understanding. I mean, you see this the most prominently in technology, but with environmental science and just the sciences in general, like it's the same exact thing. And I think it's also reflective of just like a certain contingent of politicians who are kind of, they look upon intellectualism as this elitist thing to be disparaged. But what that does is that blocks them from actually getting input from subject matter experts, because I don't know, they devalue it. And then that's what we get Trump saying that, like, oh, if you just expose it to sunlight, or like inject bleach, then like it's just everything's going to go away. And it's like, yeah, I guess that would be a logical conclusion if you were just like immediately dismissive of any and all input from subject matter experts.
Exactly.
Like, of course you would believe that.
Partly bring back gatekeepers, partly bring back technocrats. Listen to your SMEs all the way. Let's go. But everybody, with that, I am sad to say that we are out of time. So I want to thank Fresh Faces, New Ideas, and MaddyCakes for coming on the show. This was great fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Your company has been very much appreciated. We'll go ahead and let you both shout out. So we'll do Fresh Faces, New Ideas a shout out first, and then MaddyCakes, you can do your own shout out after he goes. So go ahead, Fresh Faces.
Okay. First, I want to say I was really happy to be here. I'm happy to meet you, Sean. I'm very happy to meet you, Maddie. I've seen you on a whole bunch of panels. So I'm happy we actually got to talk for once. But also, my name is David. I do Fresh Faces New Ideas. I do Fresh Faces New Ideas on Twitch. I do it on YouTube. I do at Faces Ideas on Twitter. I stream at 1 PM EST. And, I do these panels. So I hope people enjoyed this. And I look forward to doing it again.
Good to have you,
Thank
David.
you again, Fresh Faces, for coming on the show. This was great. Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back. Just hit me up on Discord. We can work something out. Maddie, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. Even in my chat, everyone's like, "Wait, this was so nice. It wasn't like a debate where you're like screaming at each other. This was such a better way to talk about current events and other things." So yeah, thank you so much for having me. And to everyone, maybe this is the first time that you're seeing me. Hi, I'm MaddyCakes. I stream on Twitch as MaddyCakes_. I do a lot of talks about politics, economics. I have also done interviews with people who are political organizers or activists. I actually did a really great interview the other day, or I guess it's been a couple months now, with an expert in fascism and talking about what that means. So yeah, I mean, and I'll come on anytime. You guys, whenever you guys do this, this was so fun. And I love that you provide like a very thorough research doc so I can read up on everything so that, unlike, I think you pointed out earlier how like in certain debates, it's clear that the people debating did not read this source material. So it's really nice to be able to talk about things where all of us have read the source material and can speak from a position of knowledge and then weigh in, whereas we're not just arguing over like what it is or isn't. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
MaddyCakes, thank you again so much for coming on here. Like I said, love your energy. First time I saw you, I'm like, got to get her on this program. She's going to be a great fun for this. Very knowledgeable on all the things that we talked about tonight. Really appreciate it. Everybody, please give another shout out to Destille. Destille is one of our members of our community. She is the person that actually puts together our news roundups docs. So me and her work together, and other people in our community work together in order to produce the kind of things that we want to talk about. And then she goes in, hunts down those ideas, gets links for us, and it saves so much time when you have one person dedicated to that. And it is very, very good. When we are ready for it, we will potentially be putting this on Patreon, and you'll all be able to have our source material as well if you're a Patreon member. So that's one of the things that we're talking about doing for our little not-for-profit and help generate money and get people generally more informed. So again, thank you to Steele, Nikki, so much for this. It is always a very, very helpful thing. So everybody, we know you liked what you heard because you stayed with us to the end. So again, go ahead and smash that like button for the algorithms. It does help us out. I dropped the shout outs for both New Faces and Ideas, Fresh Faces, New Ideas, and MaddyCakes in the chat on Twitch. Go ahead and follow them both. I'll be dropping those links inside our Facebook group and in the description on YouTube later this evening. So go ahead, hit them up on their content. They create great content. We're happy to have them here. So we're happy to promote them as well. If you're looking to join a not Facebook community and you want to hang out with us, talk to us, get on the show, hit me up on the Discord. Discord is Crowdsourced Politics, the Discord server. It is where we hang out and do all the planning and things for that, for this. And we kind of just talk shit, talk about stocks, talk about general chats, talk about drama that's happening in Facebook or other social media, just kind of generally hang out and everything like that.
Memes.
And dank memes. When we do have our Facebook community going on, we are doing a meme contest where we will be giving out a prize at the end. So after the end of 6 months, the people that had the most points of our season will be getting a nice little trophy. And I'm thinking it's going to be one of these pinatagrams. So this
fun.
Is a pinatagram. We can make it say anything that we want on the box. So we'll probably make it meme themed with the CSP logo, and it's filled with candy and it's a nice little thing. So we'll probably go with that as the gift. So you heard it here first, folks. Everybody will be doing that, and we'll definitely announce the winner on the show again with the memes in question. And as always, everybody, keep your head up through the political storm.